Good evening, guys. Tonight I'm going to go over the long tube installation and what we figured out. One of the weird things about the ryft axle tube is, as you can see here, it pins out at 351. This is the inner diameter. Right here at the screw holes, it likes to pin out about 348. And then after that, it goes back to 351 the whole way through. So we had a decision to make. Either make it 348 so it slides in easy, but then be sloppy, or go 351 and have to push it in a little bit. We decided to go with the 351. We feel that it makes an overall better product and better fit. So that's why you're gonna have a little bit of tension. You'll see that when you go to install your tubes. The tubes are sliding easy to that spot right there. And that spot right there is right here at the screw holes, and that's where it gets tight. Okay, so now we're gonna go through the installation process. All I do, I take a little bit of lube up the outside of our axle tubes. That's all it needs, just a little bit. I go ahead and insert that in the axle tube and slide it on in, like so. I like to grab, I think I usually use my 2mm hex driver. I stick it through the outside holes, right here. I'm doing this through the camera, so it is a little bit sketchy. And I rotate my tube to the angle we need. And if you look, I take our slots. There's two sets of slots. This set of slots, and this set of slots is both required for the front axle. We made this a universal fix so it can go front or rear. I'm doing the rear right now because that's one that has extra step that we need to pay more attention to. And that's one I felt was more of a concern to worry about. So that's what I'm explaining. So we stick my tube through here. I rotate this so my holes are exactly up and down with the axle, because this is what lets the screw go through at this point. So from the side view, it should look something like that. And again, we're looking at these slots up here. Not worried about these. These are for the front. We're worrying about these right now because these are for the rear. You can see how those are lined up to match these holes right here. So once we get that, we just go ahead and push it the rest of the way in. Usually I like to use the end of my Sharpie. Just go ahead and push her in. Now I will keep an eye. I look through my bolt holes right here, and you can see the tube inside there. I will keep on pushing until I can see that my holes are lined up with the bolt holes. Oops, sorry again. You can see right now, you can see the holes are almost lined up. You guys go in just a little bit farther, push her a little bit more. And now you can see they're almost there. Needs a little bit more. And looks pretty good. I'm going to check inside of here. There's a countersink in the back. I'm going to go ahead and line these up a little bit better with my tool. And slide my little hex driver in there and use it to push. As I said, this is a tight fit, but we chose that way on purpose, just for the fact that I want it tight instead of being loose, gives it less flex. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now that time I went too far, so I'm going to try this again. Sorry about this, it's really hard to do on camera. Practice this a million times. I look like a hero when the camera wasn't on. All right, so I got lined back up now, just about perfect. You can see the tube in there. You can see the tube in there. Now this is the important step. You want to take your long axle, slide it through the tube, and of course, line up your housing, your outer housing. Go ahead and slide it all the way in, okay? Now what's important is you have to look and make sure there is no gap out here. See I have that little bit of gap? Now it's gone, and make sure the axle spins freely. If this has a gap right here and your axle is tight, you did not install it far enough. But like I said, as long as this goes tight, no gap between the two housings, the outer housing and the main housing, and the axle spins freely, you have installed it at the proper depth. So now you can go ahead and put your long screws back in, here and here. And of course that one I believe is a 2.5 mil driver. Go ahead and take him in, you can run those back in. See those go all the way through. Yeah, sorry for not being too energetic tonight, guys. It's late Sunday night. Wife had me having a bunch of honeydew lists today. Didn't get to play very much. Cutting grass and all that kind of fun stuff in Ohio. Probably be snowing tomorrow, but we won't talk about that. But there's the strengthening tube. There's the axle coming through it. There's your bolts in. There's your bolts all the way through is where your bracket will hook up back up, which is this bracket right here. That will go right back in, right there. And with this thing, with your outer, make sure it is all the way in. Make sure there is no gap between the housing and the outer. And make sure the axle spins freely. And why I say that is this, the back axle, has a nice little step in it. See that little guy right there? That little step. You should never have an interference issue because once the bolts are in, it should be in the proper location. But this is just one of them secondary checks to make sure everything's good for you guys. But you can see that guy right there. That is not present on the front, and that is present on the rear. And there is a countersink inside the housing, which is too hard to see right here, but you'll see yours when you tear it apart. So just again, the extra step for the rear is make sure this bad boy slides all the way in. Make sure there is zero gap between the regular axle and the outer housing, and make sure the axle spins free. That's it. That's all there is to install it. Good luck, guys. Have a great evening, and happy Easter.